What's our seat number?
Bonus.
I'm not supposed to do an intro. I'm doing a cold open now, yeah?
Right.
So I don't need to be all, like, pepped up. I only need to be like, hello and welcome to What's Our Seat Number?
No. That's me. That's all.
Although, damn, I sound good doing it, don't I?
I've got that under control.
Okay. How best to explain what happened with my cold open today? I feel like there's a way that we
with
could...
Your cold open?
Well, I thought maybe we could sell the rights to the story to some big movie studio.
Mm-hmm.
But basically, I sat down, thought of an idea, and I was like, that's a good cold open. It's interesting. It'll lead somewhere. And then I thought, Johnny's going to want to talk about that in movie news. That's actual news. And I asked him about it. And it's one of those things where it's like, if I hadn't have fucking said anything, I could have just steamrolled him and made him look silly. I would have looked very intelligent because I, thought a couple steps ahead, or it would seem like
That's right. You gave me a chance to veto.
Exactly. Which I thought was the classy thing to do. So either way, I come out looking cool.
The classy thing to do. Where are you from? Lancashire.
Cinema. The classy thing.
The classy thing to do.
So I did the classy thing.
Mm-hmm.
And here we are. So I tried to turn this around, and I was like, okay, I got a really good idea. And I asked some friends, right? You guys listen to the podcast, right? And they went, yeah. Would you have any questions for Johnny, the filmmaker, that you would like answered on air?
Okay.
One of them said yes.
Okay, and the rest of them you fabricated.
So no, these are all from one person because he just very muchly had questions for you.
Mm-hmm.
So this comes from ShaCass.
Of course it does.
And I just sort of said, think of it like a Q&A. Anything you ever wanted to ask the great filmmaker Johnny Gross.
But too afraid to ask.
Yeah, I've written here too afraid to ask. You feel like you shit your pants when you walk by him because of his awesome... Is that good enough? Do you feel sausaged? Good. So, 1. Is there a scene that you wrote, filmed, or edited that you are particularly proud of to this day?
Short answer, no. Let me think about it. Hold on.
What? Gold.
I think it still goes back to the Dream Factory.
Yeah.
And it's the scene where they meet with the antagonist who runs the factory. And
thinking Darth Sidious, if you've never seen it.
And he takes the protagonist's and he takes the protagonist's daughter. And it's a whole dialogue scene. It's pretty intense.
Yeah.
It's some of our best work.
I agree.
Yep.
So actually, I have a follow-up question sort of pop off of that one. I wanted to ask you, so I have a lot of 3D work that I've done or work on games that I've done where, I'm proud of the work, but if I could sort of do it again, be given, the same budget, but, just sort of do it again, what things would I have done a little differently to make it better? So do you have
I think any filmmaker, no matter what you do, if you're working in Hollywood or you're working in the private sector, like I do, they're always going to say to you that there's absolutely no project that they've walked away from completely satisfied with, and there's a lot of variables in that. I mean, if you're talking about something that you've written and directed and seen through from beginning to end on your own sort of recognizance, as it were, then you're going to have interference from the money man. You're going to have interference from just generally people around you. If you're not Christopher Nolan, Steven Spielberg, Quentin Tarantino, etc., and you've not got the complete and utter trust of everybody around you, then they're going to question things. That's not the same as people coming and suggesting things. But I've had in general, I've had a lot of things sort of slip through my fingers because of that kind of thing. And in this case, working in the private sector, it's the client. The client's the one that's paying. The client's the one that has ordered the job and has given you the outline for the job. And they normally sabotage themselves.
Right.
And it's my fault.
I get what you're saying about the client. Right.
They
don't really listen to you, even though you're the professional.
There's a fine line between this is the product that I'm looking for and actually taking the advice of somebody who knows what they're doing and is a
Mhm.
professional, and sort of adapting themselves to that.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you could say this isn't going to work for this reason, and this reason. And there are some times where, you know, you have to adapt yourself to the client and go, okay, well, this is what they want and I have to try it. Sometimes it doesn't work. And sometimes they completely ruin the project that they paid for, and sometimes they're blissfully unaware of that. If they're blissfully unaware of it and they think, "Wow, that's amazing! I told you that was a good idea," you're going, You just smile, pocket the check, and walk away.
Right, but like when you're
yeah.
not talking about projects that are freelance, you know, because my sort of stance on that is the same. Like I wouldn't have made those choices, but at the end of the day, it's not really my thing. Like you made most of those decisions. So it's like, you know, when it's a personal project, like let's come back to the Dream Factory. There's a whole section there that was cut. We started like trying to find solutions, and that was like it was almost half a day.
You want to talk about the monster?
So it was the monster, right? And
okay.
it basically looked a little bit goofy once, and we were planning on covering it. I was doing VFX for the film, so you know, I was there on the set, and I was like, well, we can try and film.
This is a film that I made with my wife, and it was her thesis project for film school. So it's a film school. Movie.
It's a film school project.
And she entirely paid for it out of her own pocket. I co-wrote and directed with her, and edited the project. And throughout, because I wasn't part of the film school, nobody knew who I was. They didn't know me in a professional sense. So I would get second guessed at every turn, and she would defer to me because she was a film school student and I was actually working.
Yeah.
So I knew how to do certain things that she was worried about realizing on the screen. And I knew how to do them fairly cheaply, and I knew how to sort of do these little tricks here and there that would allow us to sort of make this movie on the cheap and make it look good.
Yeah.
And the thing is that when you're in that situation, that's why going back to the whole thing about trust is nobody trusts you to make those decisions. Everybody's coming at you, and I'm talking about the sound man is giving you advice, and the actors start telling you where to put the camera, and et cetera, et cetera. So what happened was that the cinematographer decided for no reason whatsoever that while we were storyboarding, that he thought there should be a scene here where they're getting chased down the corridor by a monster.
Right.
And he had an idea of what he wanted that monster to look like. And we fought him a little bit on it. We said it's not the pacing, there's no precedent for it, there's no reason for it, it doesn't come from anything, it doesn't lead to anything, and it's probably going to look like crap. What he thought was to put a fan, like the skeleton of a sort of a large fan on a stick.
Yeah.
And cover that with a cloth and give it like red LED lights for eyes. And it was I just knew that unless we shot it in complete darkness and all you could see were the eyes, it was going to look like absolute rubbish.
So let me tell you where I come in on this story, right? Is because this met me at the final, like the tail end of my college studies, my first 3D course. And I don't think I really came into my own on 3D until like I learned Blender in my second course. So I was like still very new to everything, and they asked me if I wanted to do the VFX, and I was like, yeah, that'd be cool. And I was there on the day, and I kept on hearing throughout this whole process, like, oh, they'll fix it in post. And it's the thing that you hear all the time. Oh, we'll fix it in post, and it's a nightmare. It's just the nightmare phrase.
So my challenge every time was, tell me how we are going to, first of all, it was me that was doing the editing.
Yeah.
And it was you that was going to do the visual effects. So every time somebody said, oh, we'll fix it in post with After Effects.
How's that going to work?
How do you think that's going to happen? You tell me now, step by step, exactly how we're going to fix this. If we don't get it in camera now, and we don't do it in a certain way that the VFX artist, which is you, is going to be able to work with it, then how exactly, since you're the one that's saying, we'll fix it in post, not you, whoever it was on the set, you tell me exactly how we're going to fix it. That was my challenge.
So I came in, I think I did like I did have a couple of arguments, like on the set with a couple of people who were saying, well, why can't you just do this? And I'm like, well, why can't you just do this? Like, it's not as easy as that.
It was intense, man. It was a really intense shoot. I remember we parked outside our apartment at the either it was the beginning of the day or the tail end of the day. I don't even know anymore. It was winter and it was dark. No, it was summer. We shot it in summer, right?
Yeah, it was in the summer.
So I can't remember if it was the beginning of the day or the end of the day, but I remember my wife and I had a massive argument. Now we're fine working together.
Yeah,
we're great working together, but that one moment we just like let loose and started screaming at each other. I don't think it was anything to do with us specifically, and we weren't arguing about anything in particular, but there was this build up of tension. And it's exactly the reason why I decided not to try and pursue, whether in this country or in the States or in England or anywhere else, why I didn't try and pursue narrative filmmaking as a career, because it's so much stress.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, it's not really worth it, especially if you've got a family and, and you're happy and you're just trying to make ends meet and whatever. What you're going to be doing is you're going to be working your ass off, day in, day out, nights, weekends, constantly, never see the people you love, and probably scraping by trying to pay the rent and trying to pay the bills, etc. And it's really tough. I'm not, don't want to discourage anybody who wants to get into it, but especially in this
some
country,
people who it would suit them if they're not in the same
I'm sure
life situation.
But in this country specifically, we tried to get a feature-length version of the Dream Factory off the ground, and there were lots of people that were interested. We were in a good place to get that done. We started writing the script. We had a whole outline. We knew exactly where we wanted it to go. I've still got it in my head. I know exactly how to adapt that into a feature-length movie. And my God, we got discouraged. It was a few months. We got discouraged. We went to a very big production company, and we basically got the idea from them and from everybody else we spoke to that we were going to be the chess pieces, making it happen, fighting the war, and they were going to basically take every decision out of our hands because they were putting up the money.
Right.
And they wanted to change the story. They kept saying it can't be a two-hander. It's not a buddy movie. It's a fantasy movie. You can't have both the father and the daughter be the protagonists. It has to be one or the other. Yeah, you're looking at me with that confused look on your face. But
it's really interesting, because if you were to go and pitch that sort of thing now, what with The Last of Us and other shows that have done that sort of thing, it's like
we had a lot of arguments, and at the end of the day, I think we decided when our first kid was in utero, as it were, we decided that it just wasn't worth it, and we should just sort of focus on getting by, making money, and paying the rent, basically.
So the monster scene is what
the
you
monster
would have
scene,
changed.
yeah. The point is that we let our cinematographer kind of walk all over us.
Yeah.
In a few respects. One, I said to him that we need to use a jib. A jib is a crane, for anybody that doesn't know. It's a sort of miniature crane, and the idea.
It's also something you can like the cut of.
Yes.
Someone's.
Yes, indeed. So the idea was to sort of buck the trend of student films where everything's sort of locked down. Sometimes if you have a little bit of camera movement, it's a panning shot.
Yeah.
I just wanted to have like some movement, give it some cinematic life.
Yeah, you kept on bringing up Spielberg because of the sense of adventure.
There were certain things that I wanted to do. There's
like
a way
the push in on their faces when they see the factory
exactly,
for the first time.
Now, our cinematographer didn't understand what I was talking about. And you could have done it with the jib quite easily. But he would move the camera on the jib. We didn't have anything else. That's all we had, basically. It was a jib on a tripod. And he kept moving it for everything when it wasn't necessary to move it. And he would do these slow movements, and I'd keep saying to him, maybe we should try it like this. We should try it like this. And I think maybe I was a little bit too timid with him because he was, quote unquote, more experienced. Yeah. And I'm a cameraman as well. And I said to him that this is the way that I would shoot it. And he was a bit uppity about his yes, about his job. So the issue was that he sort of shoehorned that scene, and it was half a day's worth of shooting. And in the end, it got cut. And I saw that it wasn't working within the cut. It wasn't working out of the cut as well, because it was the first thing I cut together.
I think I was like also asking you to cut it because I was 100% sure, because what they were saying to me was
you
that
can enhance it.
They were saying you could make it, like a CG kind of monster on top. And I'm like, are you high, you people? Like, what do you... Well, I mean, they were, weren't they?
Right.
But,
But at the time, you weren't doing full-on characters like that. You created an
I had
environment.
done one. That was it at that point. I just finished one.
The pirate.
And that was nowhere near the level that...
It wasn't rigged, though. It wasn't ready to animate by that point, either.
What, the pirate?
Yeah.
No, but by the time the college came to the end, it was.
Right. But I'm saying you wouldn't have been able to knock up in a couple of months a fully CG...
I wouldn't
monster
have been able,
or alien.
I wouldn't have been able to do that, nor would I have been able to do all the other shots that I was doing.
Right.
All of the time needs to be spent on that.
We should note that this was in 2016, 2015.
Yeah. No. Now I have all that experience and stuff.
Right. So we ended up cutting that because it didn't work and it didn't look good. And I showed it to a bunch of people. In general, it just didn't fit. But again, I mean, now I look at that and I'm going, okay, well, I'm kind of proud of that movie in general.
Yeah.
I like that I was able to do a little bit of that. And in my work, I've done quite a bit of narrative stuff, but it's been in the framework of something else. So I did for the education ministry, I did a bunch of things that were scripted, but they were for either ads or instructional videos or something like that ended up having characters and actors and scenes that were constructed. I ended up doing a series for it was for a local TV station, and they got a budget to make a series, and I edited all that stuff. And I enjoy that, and I'm much better at it than I am at the promo stuff and all that stuff that I do nowadays. I feel like I'm much better when I'm constructing a scene and telling a story in a more straightforward sense.
I think you're a fantastic storyteller.
Thank you. But it's I think that when it doesn't come within the framework of something else, that there is a very specific arranged budget that that I know how much I'm going to get paid, and I know when this is going to end, and it's a sort of a finite thing, rather than a movie that could go on for months or even years. And I might never see a penny. Yeah,
welcome to game dev as well.
Exactly. So so while I'm happy that I got to do a lot of that kind of stuff, and I sometimes still do, it's very, very difficult in a general sense to be a narrative filmmaker and still be working daily. Right. Anyway, I think I went off. Off the rails there a little bit, but anyway. If this is interesting to you...
Question 3.
Of?
The questions that ShaCass asked.
3 of how many?
6.
Oh my god. Okay.
No, we can just...
I'll try and...
No, we can just do the next one and that's it.
Okay, question 3.
What are must-watch movies, in your opinion, different from favorite?
There are so many that it's just impossible to list them all.
Right.
So I could say... The Godfather, I could say Jaws, a lot of movies that came out in the 70s and the 80s, to be honest, but that's just me. But I think The Godfather, I would say that if you want to see somebody who is just somebody who doesn't really know anything at this point in his career and is experimenting and doing things that he didn't know that people more experienced would go, I can't do that because that's not allowed, and that would be Citizen Kane. I think he experimented a lot on that movie, and that was his explanation for it. It was like I was much braver because I was dumber back then. So Citizen Kane is one of those. I would say It's a Wonderful Life is something that in general is just a really wonderful. It's a Wonderful Life.
Wonderful.
Yes, it's first of all it's a feel good movie, but also like it's a really great character study of being able to sort of slowly but surely rip a character down. And then just like show him exactly how good he has it. Yeah. It's just it's a great, that whole thing that I was talking about with the Shawshank Redemption of having everything seem hopeless and then giving you just like a tiny little glimmer of hope.
Yeah.
And then in the worst circumstances possible, like for example in a prison on death row, you're giving like that little glimmer of sunlight. And that's a wonderful narrative convention that I really get a kick out of seeing. It's the same thing if you look at something like Ted Lasso.
Yeah.
And how Hannah Waddingham's character is such a cold-hearted person until, you know, this Ted, who's this ray of sunshine, who himself is going through a huge amount of crap, starts to sort of warm her up and chip away at her hard exterior. And it's just something that's you know, if you like pay attention to it, you'll notice it being used, and you'll probably get cynical about it. But I'm never cynical about it. I think it's great. I
love Ted Lasso. Yeah, it's nice to watch something that's just kind.
Yeah. On the other hand, you've got establishing character in a proper way that sort of makes them three-dimensional and their relationships believable and makes you care about them before unleashing a monstrous shark on them. Right. You know, that's I think that's it's a masterclass in character. It's a masterclass in suspense, and that is Jaws. And I think
Deep Blue Sea.
Or Deep Blue Sea. Yeah.
Aliens.
My head is like a shark's fin. Deepest, bluest. My head is like a shark's fin.
Johnny is saying to the alien, you should watch one of the greatest Spielberg movies ever made, before Spielberg was, you know, the Spielberg that we know of today. Yeah. Right.
The pinnacle of adventure movies, Raiders of the Lost Ark. I could go on. I'm not going to, but there are so many movies out there, and there's no right or wrong answer. You know.
So pointless for you to answer it.
Absolutely. Okay, that was nice. Thank you. Bye.
Oh, bye.
Drop page. Warbucks continue.
The Oscars were last week.
Yes, they were.
I didn't actually watch the Oscars. I didn't watch it, but I saw bits and pieces after my Facebook feed got inundated with all kinds of bollocks.
Yeah. Other shite you haven't heard of.
So Everything Everywhere All at Once. Speaking of the Irish, by the way, if you're just going to do a bad Irish accent there.
The Banshees of Inisherin?
Yeah, didn't win anything, unfortunately.
Yeah.
They were very upset. I think that, I haven't actually seen Banshees of Inisherin, but from what I hear, it sounds like it's a better film than Everything Everywhere All at Once, which is why I think the Oscars are a bunch of rubbish. Because it's not a gauge of what's good and what's not.
Yeah.
I think most years people are miserable about the Best Picture winner. It always comes with its fair share of backlash in later years. The Shape of Water has met its fair share of backlash. There's also Chicago and Crash and all of those Best Picture winners that have been completely derided in recent, like ever since. So I'm not sure that it's necessarily a badge of honor to win Best Picture, to be honest.
I look. First of all, you can understand why it is, because people give value.
They do.
You know, to things. So if people put value in the Oscars, right, then there's value in the Oscars. But it's silly. It's silly
because you can't take something like The Whale and compare it to Everything Everywhere All at Once. They're two completely different movies.
But I don't know that they're comparing. I think that they're saying, you know, these were good performances,
right?
And we want to recognize that, which I think is a nice thing.
Put all of those Best Pictures in the same category, you're pitting them against each other. So you are kind of comparing. You're saying this is better than this. All of these people voted. It's basically what the Academy voters liked.
Yeah.
You know, so it's all opinion.
Yeah.
And it's people use it as a gauge. It's like it's a badge of honor. Oscar Academy Award winner Jamie Lee Curtis. Now she's an Academy Award winner. She won for Everything Everywhere All at Once, and a lot of people are saying
she deserves her performance.
But that's the thing. It's not necessarily for her performance. It's because she was due an Oscar. In the same way that The Departed wasn't necessarily Martin Scorsese's greatest directorial achievement. He should have won it for Goodfellas. He could have won it for Mean Streets. He could have won it for Taxi Driver. He could have won it for fucking Hugo Cabret. Is that what it's called?
Cabret?
Yes. Hugo Cabret and the Cabinet of Caligari. But yeah, I don't know.
What the fuck are you talking
I'm
about?
just talking rubbish now. You see, that's what I do. I start off making sense.
And then you slide into
Exactly,
babbling
because I don't really
nonsense.
have anything to say. And by the time you realise that I've started talking bollocks, it's too late.
But I have things to say. I'm just being polite and I'm not interrupting you because that's how I was brought up.
Okay, so we wanted to talk about Ki-Hugh Kwan, right?
Right, listen. Stop for a second. Stop fucking talking. Right. I'm in control, damn it.
Of course you are.
Right.
This is what happens when you do a podcast on very little sleep.
Oh, jeez. Okay.
Yes.
Right. Now listen.
Mm-hmm.
You're right about everything that you're saying, right?
Right.
Apart from the bit at the end that was just like it just
started
fell
going-
into babbling nonsense.
Started going blah 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 blah.
Absolutely
blah, blah,
no
blah.
idea what you were talking about, but right, I agree with you. Okay,
Yes.
and I do think that the nice thing that has happened this year, right, is what, you know, Brendan Fraser and Ki-Hugh Kwan,
Right.
and like the fact that these are people in Hollywood.
Right.
We're not talking about necessarily Jamie Lee Curtis and maybe Michelle Yeoh, right?
Right.
Yeoh,
Yo.
right? Yo, what's it?
Yep.
Shut the fuck up, Sight. Cut that. Seriously, cut that. No jokes. Cut that. But like, you know, Brendan Fraser, he was blacklisted from Hollywood supposedly.
He
right?
wasn't
They say that
blacklisted.
he was.
Really? Because of what happened with the Hollywood Foreign Press guy?
Yeah.
The
The inappropriate
right.
and the pinching.
Yeah. Mhm,
Yeah.
mhm, mhm.
And I think that, you know, Key's story is like really, really, really
Yeah, it's a proper
heartwarming comeback.
hmm
And from what I
don't-
understand, he actually deserves it for his performance.
I've seen
Like,
the movie.
You've seen the movie.
I have. I
What
have
do
it
you
on
think?
4K. I liked it, but I didn't. First of all, I was a little bit puzzled by it.
Everybody says they're puzzled
Yeah,
by it. I want to know
it's-
about his performance.
His performance is
specifically.
excellent,
Mm.
but you have to be emotionally invested. I think that I need to see it again. And I watched it, I think, I want to say like a year ago.
Mm.
So before any of this buzz or anything like that, it was one of those like, and people have been joking about it. There's a guy on the Empire Group who's needling it all the time by saying, "Well, this movie, I didn't like it the first time I saw it, but now that it's an Oscar winner, I've completely done a 180." And a lot of people took him really seriously. If you know who I'm talking about, then you know that he very rarely posts anything seriously.
Right.
He was being sarcastic about it, but like, it's true though. I mean, now that it's gotten Oscar recognition, people are starting to change their minds about it. And I never looked at it like that. I looked at it as sort of a quirky kind of. And a lot of people were saying that it's the multiverse movie of last year.
Yeah.
And the implication is that Doctor Strange wasn't very good, and this was so much better than it. And first of all, spoiler alert, by the way, if you haven't seen the movie. I haven't. You haven't seen the movie. Okay, so I won't say what I'm going to say. But yeah, I think that Doctor Strange pips it for me,
Okay.
mainly because I'm more invested in those characters than I was in the characters in Everything Everywhere at
Fair
Once.
enough. I
But-
need to watch it to
Yeah.
sort of like make my
Well, I think
decision.
I think I need to see it again. But I don't doubt that. First of all, Jamie Lee Curtis's performance was great in it. I think that she's probably given better performances elsewhere. She gives a very quirky performance. It's very transformative, and the Academy like that. You probably wouldn't recognize her at a glance because she looks very unglamorous. But yeah, I think that she gives a great performance. Is it Oscar worthy? I don't know. I'm not. It's not my place
you to decide.
Exactly.
But you'll
it's not
talk
my-
about it endlessly
I
until
will.
you start.
Right, until I'm blue in the face. Ki-Hugh Kwan's performance is great. I think he first of all he plays a lot of different versions of his character Waymond.
Mhm.
There's one particular moment when I thought, wow, he's doing really well in this movie, and it's the fact that he's very emotional as the main character Waymond, like the main universe Waymond. And he cries a lot, and he's giving a lot of like sort of emotional sort of acting. And in one of the other there's a universe where they're going to see a movie that Michelle Yeoh's character is starred in the universe that she's a famous actress, and he plays this suave. He's dressed in a tuxedo. He plays this like sort of suave ex-lover of hers, and it's brilliant that he can make that transformation. You know, because the way that he talks and the way that he acts, he's a little bit nerdy. He's a little bit like he reminds you of Short Round.
Yeah.
And that moment when he plays this sort of like suave, almost James Bond like character, is just, like his voice changes, posture changes. He's a really fantastic actor. And I think that he did deserve that recognition, and he did deserve that comeback. But anyway,
I'm pleased that Brendan Fraser is starting to show up in more stuff, and he's starting to look happier.
I still haven't
healthier.
seen The Whale, but I wanna check that out. It looks like he's really giving it 100%, 150%.
I'm really happy to see that. Like even like I'm just happy to see him in movies again.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. They're making a big deal, the Academy, out of the fact that they are suddenly awarding sci-fi movies accolades. Whereas before, you had the award for Heath Ledger for The Dark Knight and various little blips here and there. But since The Shape of Water, there's been a lot more sort of inclusion of different genres.
You think that was the movie that
I don't know. I don't retain that much information about the Oscars. Like if somebody was to say to me, name 5 Best Picture winners that were this and this, I wouldn't be able to do it.
Well, then you're obviously not a proper director. Some people
not a
would
film
say,
buff.
and then you'd have to kick them in the nads, because that's bollocks.
Yeah, but I don't know. I think it's definitely in recent years, and the fact that Angela Bassett was nominated for her role in Wakanda Forever, which is a Marvel movie, it's got a lot of weight to it because of Chad Boseman's passing, and the fact that the whole movie is basically a tribute to him. But I think also she was nominated because she was due a nomination, so she was very upset visibly when she didn't get it. But I mean, to be honest with you, it's not.
I've not seen Wakanda Forever.
Neither have I. I haven't seen it, but I know enough about it to say a few sentences about it. Yeah,
say a few words.
But yeah, I mean, I
and a few words.
Yeah,
Jonathan.
all right. But I think, look, to be honest, it's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. This one could have won. This one could have won. I think if you put all of those actresses together, you realize that all of them gave a fantastic performance, and that's the issue I have with the Oscars. Yeah. Is that no one performance should outshine any of the others. Yeah. And they're all different as well. They're all completely different performances.
The way that society's going, at some point everybody will win an award of some kind. They get participation awards just for sitting at the table.
Right. I didn't get an award for sitting at this table. Hugh Grant, was he being a dick?
Oh, on the red carpet?
Oh, yeah.
Look, here's the thing. On the one hand, yes, but at the same time, a huge resounding no. And I'll explain why. Item 1.
But I'm leaning towards no.
Are you saying that Count Dracula is our vampire?
Yes! And no.
Then what are you saying?
I'm saying no. But I'm leaning towards yes. Then you're saying yes? No. Then it's no. Not necessarily.
You sound dubious.
No, I'm positive.
Of what?
My theory!
And that would be?
The theory of yes or no.
Yeah, just sort of like... Item 1. I just think that, okay, you could say on the one hand, he could have been more courteous.
Yeah.
Right? They were in front of the cameras. He could have sort of hidden it a little better. Right?
Right.
But the questions were inane, but also at the same time, they always are. So you know what you're getting.
Yeah.
What are you most excited to see tonight?
To see?
Yeah, well, I know that you probably watched a few of the movies. Are you excited to see anybody win? Do you have your hopes up for anyone?
No one in particular.
Okay, well, what are you wearing tonight then?
Just my suit.
Your suit? Who
Yeah.
made your suit? You didn't make it.
I can't remember. My tailor.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Shout out to the tailor.
Yeah.
So tell me, what does it feel like to be in Glass Onion? It was such an amazing film. I really loved it. I love a thriller. How fun is it to shoot something like that?
Well, I'm barely in it. I'm in it for about 3 seconds.
Yeah, but still, you showed up and you had fun, right?
Almost.
Okay, all right. Okay. Well, thank you so much. It was nice to talk to you.
Yeah.
All right, back to you guys.
I think you need to, like, in general, anybody commenting on this needs to understand what they're commenting about. I am a Brit, and I can totally see myself in Hugh Grant. Not that I'm Hugh Grant. I'm saying I can see the awkwardness and the complete sort of deer in headlights kind of reaction to being interviewed on the red carpet. She wasn't asking him anything Hugh Grant specific, and he does have a couple of movies coming out. So she could have asked him about that. What she ended up asking him was about his 20-second cameo in the Knives Out sequel, which he said, like, I was there for a few hours, didn't have fun, not have fun. It was just a couple of hours. I flew in, I did it, and I flew out again.
It felt like she didn't come prepared.
Right, that's what I'm saying. She didn't do her research, and Daniel Craig wasn't lambasted for telling off that reporter who said at the Tintin premiere, what's it like starring in a Steven Spielberg movie? He said, I was already in one. I was in Munich. I also did a movie with Sam Mendes called Road to Perdition that was produced by Steven Spielberg. That's what I don't like about reporters, ones that don't do their homework. And he got really upset about it, which I can understand because the reporter didn't do his homework.
Yeah.
Craig plays Ivanovich Sakharine, the film's baddie. And as hero Tintin is an adventurous reporter, we asked what annoys him about the press.
Nothing. Ask me stupid questions. I love reporters.
We believed him until someone else asked this.
And has it always been a dream to be in a Steven Spielberg movie?
I've been in one before. In fact, I've been in 2 Steven Spielberg movies. I've done Road to Perdition, which he produced, and I did one called Munich. So yeah. That's what annoys me about journalists. Hello.
So, it's exactly the same thing here that, she was asking him completely inane questions and he was just being British about it. It's like, and responding with a snide remark, which was, who are you wearing? My suit.
Right.
Just like a lot of random
just
shit.
like really, how do you want me to answer that? Like, what exactly are you bringing to the conversation that I'm not bringing right now?
Yeah, and people are saying that he could have been a bit more gracious, but at the same time, he was having an awkward conversation, and he probably felt that he probably didn't know it was going to blow up the way it did. Definitely.
Yeah, but also I'm sorry. Look, I know that we're in this sort of very you can't say anything. Don't say stuff. Don't open your mouth with things to say words. Like, everybody has to be likable and cool and whatnot. And obviously, if he's being a bit of a dick and he's being rude, then nobody likes that. But it's also, maybe that's just him. Like,
it is. It seems to be. It seems to be. I've seen him in interviews
before. He's a grumpy
before.
twat. And I thought that Daniel Craig was also I think he was fed up of answering questions about James Bond. And so he sounded in at least one interview, a couple, at the end, where he was just, oh God, and he couldn't be bothered.
But he was still somewhat gracious with it. But he was being asked things that were Daniel Craig centric. I think that a lot of people stand on their high horse, or sit on their high horse. Standing is probably dangerous. Probably don't stand.
Yeah, don't
on
do
a
that
horse.
unless you're wearing a crash helmet.
Especially if it's high. If it's high. Speaking of which, animals that are high.
Animals. Yeah.
We'll get that.
That's great. That's great. Good.
Good sieg.
Good.
I think that in general, people that make comments about this kind of thing and judge and all that kind of stuff are kind of you've never had a bad day, you've never been
every day is a bad day for me, Johnny.
Right. Well, you've never had an awkward conversation.
Every conversation is an awkward conversation for me, Johnny.
The issue is putting all of these people on pedal stools.
What's our seat number?
Bonus.